So this session aims to cascade the 2025 Omnibus Rules on the SALN to all government employees through a structured and practical approach. It will ensure that implementers, your reviewers, and filers clearly understand their legal obligations, procedural responsibilities, and the consequences of non-compliance while promoting transparency, accountability, and ethical governance in public service. So ito pong SALN natin ay na-promulgate po siya in 2025. And since napapanahon na naman and we will be preparing for our SALN na, kailangan na din po and it's really high time for us to review the fixtures of our SALN. Okay?
The objectives of my presentation are the following: to understand the purpose, the scope, and the requirements of SALN, identify major changes in the new rules, and to clarify compliance, responsibilities, and sanctions. Now, what are the highlights of the new rules? The new rules integrate all SALN issuances of the Civil Service Commission. It also adopts the digital filing and submission of SALN. It clarifies what constitutes assumption of office, the procedure for all instances of filing the SALN, upon assumption, annual, and upon separation. So in this new set of guidelines, we actually clarified that we have three kinds of SALN. We have the so-called entry SALN, the SALN that you fill out when you are first entrant to the government service, and then the annual SALN, which we are filling out where the deadline is April 30 of every year, and the exit SALN, which we are filling out when we are already leaving the government service. In the previous rules, these three types of SALNs were actually not given sufficient attention, but in the 2025 SALN, we have clarified the rules on how to fill them out. Okay. It also contains provision on multiple marriages. We received a lot of questions about how people with more than one marriages will fill out the SALN, especially those whose spouses are also working in government. Okay, so we will have answers to that later. We have a new provision on the signature of the spouse. Kung matatandaan po ninyo, in the previous rule, there was a mandatory requirement to secure the signature of your spouse, whether your spouse works in government or not. Okay, so in the new SALN, hindi na ho nire-require yun ngayon. But we will discuss more on that later. And of course, we will have updates on review and compliance procedure. Okay? So lahat po ito makikita natin in this new set of guidelines on the filling out and submission of our SALN. The Omnibus Rules on the SALN 2025 was issued by the Civil Service Commission via CSC Resolution number 25-00632 dated June 25, 2025. It took effect last September 29, 2025. Hence, this is the 2025 Omnibus Rules on SALN. Now, what is SALN? SALN is a statement required from government employees under existing laws that compels us to disclose our assets, liabilities, and net worth. I think everybody knows what SALN is. Ang hindi lang alam ng karamihan ay yung proper manner of filling out the SALN, apparently because of so many things that already happened. So we will clarify all those confusions in this orientation. Now, what's the legal basis for our SALN? Now, for these guidelines that we are going to discuss in the new form, there are three legal bases. First is the Republic Act 6713, or the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. Aside from that, we have the jurisprudence or the Supreme Court decisions, and of course, this 2025 Omnibus Rules on the SALN. Now, you may ask, hindi ba mayroon pang ibang mga batas that are considered or that may be considered as legal basis for the SALN? Yes, but for purposes of this new guidelines as well as the form, ang ginagamit lang po natin ay itong tatlo na ito. So 6713 jurisprudence and the 2025 Omnibus Rules. Now, bakit? We will explain that later. Okay, now the most important question that is often asked is why is there a need to fill out and submit our SALN? So why is SALN required of public officers? And this is the answer. Because the requirement of filing the SALN is a constitutional obligation. So no less than the 1987 Constitution mandates that all of us working in government should file our SALN. This is an instrument of transparency. This is the document which we can show to the public that we serve, that while we are working in government, we are not unduly enriching ourselves at the expense of taxpayers' money. So this is one way of telling them, I am here just to serve, not to unduly accumulate wealth. Kaya nga po meron tayong sinasabi dati, kasabihan natin, and up to now, it's still applicable. If there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to fear. Kaya dapat ang SALN is open for inspection by the public. Well, subject to some requirements, but the public must be able to inspect the SALNs of government officials and employees. Apparently, because according to the Supreme Court, in this case of Abano versus Executive Secretary, this is an instrument of transparency. Well, aside from that, SALN also deter government officials who are bent on enriching themselves through unlawful means, or those who are committing graft and corruption. Why? Because if your SALN declaration will show a disproportion, no, between your accumulated wealth and the income that you're receiving from the government, that will be a red flag. That will be open for investigation. How come there is such a disproportion? Okay? Yung hindi naman magde-declare, dahil of course, ayaw nilang i-declare, no? Kung ano man yung excess na kayamanan nila, you will be committing another offense because non-declaration in the SALN is a specific offense. Okay? Kaya sasabi po ng Supreme Court, SALN is an instrument that somehow helps in preventing graft and corruption in government. So that's how important, no? The filing of SALN for all of us who are working in government. Okay, so let us talk about who are required to file. So if this is important, then who are required to file? Practically everyone working in government are required to file. The moment you enter government service, immediately the obligation to fill out SALN is already there. And this applies to all officials and employees of all agencies of the government, national and local governments, state universities and colleges, and government-owned and controlled corporations and their subsidiaries with or without original charter. So ito po isang malaking kaibahan ito, di ba? Under the law, ang covered lang ng civil service when it comes to GOCCs are GOCCs with original charter. Pero pagdating po sa pag-execute ng SALN, even those GOCCs without original charter are covered. Therefore, the officials and employees in those government-owned and controlled corporations are also required to file SALN. Now, but meron bang mga exempted? Of course, people will also ask that, no? Are there people who are excused from filing SALN even if they are working in government? Well, actually, the law itself under 6713 provides for these exemptions, no? Number one, those who are serving in honorary capacity are no longer required to file their SALN. These people are actually not issued any appointment, no, to any position in government. They are also not elected. They were merely invited to help the government lend their expertise and contribute to whatever is necessary for their services in government. Okay, so they are not receiving any pay. We are actually utilizing their talents and skills. They are serving the government because of their generosity and liberality. So we will not require them anymore to submit their SALN. Okay, so that's number one. Second, the laborers, no? The law is very specific that laborers are exempted from filing SALN. So therefore, only those with position title laborers are exempted. So if you are holding other positions, even if you are doing the same job, but if your position title is not laborer, you are not exempt. Those with position title laborers are the ones exempted from filing their SALN. Okay? And number three, the casual employees, casual or temporary workers. But actually, it's only the casual employees. The term temporary workers here was used by the law as another term for casual. No? It does not refer to temporary employees who are holding career positions, and they are considered temporary only because they do not have eligibility. Okay, so the temporary workers here do not refer to those kinds of temporary employees. No, the temporary as a terminology here was used as another term for casual. So therefore, there are only three exemptions: those who are serving in honorary capacity, those whose position titles are laborers, and those who are holding casual appointments. Okay, so we cannot add to this because these exemptions are provided by law. Okay, so we just have to follow what is written in the law. Now, so that talks about who should file and who are exempted. Now, next, when should we file? Let us talk about the period. When are we going to file the SALN? As I have said earlier, there are three kinds of SALN. No? So when do we file each kind of SALN? With respect to the entry SALN, the filing is within 30 days after assumption of office. Okay, so when you assume office, within 30 days, you have to file your SALN. That's the entry SALN. Now, if you're already working in government, okay, the filing of the SALN is an annual obligation. And the deadline in the agency level is on or before April 30. So that's the annual SALN. Okay? Now, do you have to file it exactly on April 30? We are advising agencies to internally adopt an earlier deadline so that they can all comply with the April 30 deadline. Okay? So, but that's the deadline set by law when it comes to the annual filing. Now, the third kind of SALN is the exit SALN, which should be filed within 30 days after separation from the service. Okay, so when you're already leaving the government, you will again have an obligation to file your SALN. So within 30 days from separation. So you can see, no, with these periods, the SALN also serves to monitor the accumulation of wealth of government people. How much is your net worth at the time you enter? How much is your net worth while you are working in government? And finally, how much is your net worth when you are already leaving the government? Okay, so this is an instrument to monitor the accumulation of our wealth as government workers. Okay, so that talks about the period. Now let's talk about the manner. So how do you file the SALN? Well, actually, there are two options, no? You either file jointly or separately. So what do we mean by that? You file jointly if you are married to another government official. You have that option, okay? That's why you can see in this provision, the option applies only when the spouses are both in government service. This is an option because you can also file separately. If you do not want a joint filing, then by all means, you can file separately, okay? But if you want to file your SALN jointly, para alam mo na, isang preparation na lang, tapos isang filing, that's also good, no? Provided both of you are working in government. Okay? Ngayon, yung number 2, mag-a-apply din yung option na jointly or separately if the filer has more than one wife, okay? But only one is working in government. So you have more than one wife, but only one of your wives is working in government, then you can exercise that option. Ang ibig sabihin, kung more than one, yung asawa mo na nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno, katulad mo, yung option na to will not be available anymore. No? So automatic, separate yun. But even if you have more than one wife, but only one is working in government, then the option is available to you. Okay? Kaya makikita nyo po dito sa susunod na slide, the declarant shall shade the not applicable box. Ibig sabihin, hindi available yung option na yon if the declarant is single, naturally, no? Kanino ka makikipag-join kung single ka naman. If the declarant is married, but the spouse is not in government service, apparently your spouse is not working in government, wala kang ka-joint filing. Married but with more than one wife in government service. Okay? So again, kung more than wife ang iyong more than one ang iyong spouse, and more than one of them is working in government, you cannot exercise the option. Kailangan separate ang filing. Okay. Now, what are the existing laws on the SALN? Kanina, yung binanggit ko po kanina are the legal basis for our form, no, the current form that we are using now, as well as the new guidelines. But in reality, we have other laws, no, that mandate the filing of SALN. Unang-una na nga po dyan, yung 1987 Constitution of the Philippines. Maliwanag po dyan, no, that all government workers are being imposed, no, the duty to file their SALN on a regular basis. But aside from that, we have these laws, no. RA 3019 is our Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Meron din hong provision dyan ng SALN at in fact mahigpit nga po yung mga provisions dyan at mas maraming information na hinihingi, no. But I will explain later bakit hindi siya nakikita sa form. Now, susunod yung RA 6713, which is incidentally the basis for the current form that we are using. EO 292 is the Administrative Code of 1987. Meron din pong provisions yan ng SALN, and also the Local Government Code, RA 7160, no? For people who are working in government, meron din pong provision dyan ng SALN. Ngayon, for your better information, ito po yung mga provisions ng mga different laws, no, that require the SALN. So sa RA 3019, you will see here a provision saying that requires a true, detailed, sworn statement of assets and liabilities, including a statement of the amounts and sources of income, the amounts of personal and family expenses, and the amount of income taxes paid for the next preceding calendar year. 3019 po yan. Sinabi ko nga kanina, mas mahigpit yung kanyang mga requirements. Sa EO 292, to submit a declaration under oath of his assets, liabilities, and net worth. 6713, ito na nga po yung basis natin. At sa 7160, that's the actual wording of the provisions. Okay? So in other words, marami ho tayong pwedeng pagbatayan, no? Nung obligasyon natin na ito, to annually, to regularly submit our SALN. Now, on the part of the Civil Service Commission, the CSC was the one given by RA 6713 the obligation to issue the implementing rules and regulations of the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, which incidentally contains the provisions pertaining to the obligation to file SALN. And in relation to that, the CSC had actually issued a number of resolutions and circulars, no, pertaining to the SALN since way back. So 1989 pa, meron na po kaming mga issuances pertaining to SALN. Okay? So hindi ko na ho siya iisa-isahin, basta ang mahalaga, sa ngayon po, meron tayong bagong-bago na 2025 Omnibus Rules on the SALN. Now, what are included in the SALN? No? What can be found in the SALN? First, of course, is the statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, no? As I have already explained. But it's not limited to that. No? Our SALN would also require us to disclose our financial connections or business interests. Okay? Alam niyo ho, it's not enough to declare how wealthy we are. No? We should also tell the public what are the sources of our other income kung meron man. Okay? Again, for complete transparency. And aside from that, look at bullet number 3. It also contains an obligation to identify our relatives in government within the 4th degree of consanguinity or affinity, which also include bilas, balae, and inso. And these are requirements under RA 6713. Okay? And I think government people know the rationale for this. No? The prohibition against nepotism is very well spelled out in our existing rules. And therefore, our SALN should show that. No? We must not be afraid to identify our relatives in government just to show that we are not committing any of those prohibitions, which may refer to hiring our relatives, no? Who are also working in government. Okay. Now, pagdating naman po sa forms, marami na hong iba't ibang forms na na-issue. No? And let me discuss it a little bit para hindi po kayo malito. No? Kasi one of the requirements to consider your submission as valid is the use of the proper form. So therefore, you should not use any other form. Meron hong mga nagtatanong kung yung 2025 form ay gagamitin na ba ngayon o kung pwede pang gamitin yung dating form kasi nasa transition naman. Actually, the rule now requires na for 2026 filing, ang gagamitin na po nating form ay yung 2025 form. Okay? Wala na ho kayong ibang form na gagamitin, kundi yung 2025 form. Okay? Yung sa transitory provision po, as we will discuss later, will apply, no? Doon sa mga nag-file ng entry SALN at exit SALN last 2025. Yun, hindi na po natin yun babaguhin because anyway, those were filed in 2025. No? Pero yung magpa-file po ng SALN ngayong 2026, wala na pong ibang form na gagamitin, kundi 2025 SALN form. Okay? So ano ba yung reason kung bakit nagkaroon ng iba't ibang forms? Well, nung una pa po, no, nung lumabas yung 6713, meron na pong form and that was being regularly used by people working in government. And then this was revised in 1994 to make it more complete. Unfortunately, in one case involving a former general, no, na nakasuhan po siya sa Sandigan Bayan because of non-declaration of assets, no, in the 1994 form. Ang sabi yun ng Sandigan Bayan doon, in acquitting that general, it's not the fault of the general that he missed to declare all those assets because the form itself did not require the declaration of those properties. In other words, if there is any deficiency here, it's the form. It's not the fault of the filer that those properties were not reflected in the SALN. Okay? So, ang sabi ho ng commission at the time, let us follow the court. Let us revise, let us come up with a form that will contain all the necessary information about the accumulation of wealth of government officials and employees. Kaya ho nailabas yung 2008 baseline declaration form and annual declaration form. Yun nga lang, masyado naman pong mahigpit. Napakaraming hinihinging information ng 2008 baseline declaration form to the point na karamihan po sa mga government people nagrereklamo dyan na masyado raw cumbersome kasi mahirap pilapan. Pero ang kagandahan naman ng 2008 baseline declaration form, kapag natapos mo yung mahirap na form, yung susunod na taon, puro annual declaration form na lang, na madali namang gawin. Kasi kung halimbawa, wala namang pagbabago sa iyong SALN, no, or net worth, i-declare mo lang sa form na walang pagbabago, no? Wala kang bagong acquisitions, etc. So annual declaration na lang yun. Mas madali. But it was also declared as not valid because under the law, what is required is an annual complete declaration of assets, liabilities, and net worth. Okay? Kaya binago po yung 2008 form, we introduced the 2011 form. Okay, ngayon, ito pong 2011 form, uh, we try to include here the requirements under RA 3019. Kung natatandaan nyo yung diniscuss ko kanina, under 3019, no, kasamang inire-require sa SALN yung personal and family expenses, sources of income, at saka income taxes paid. Among others, no? So aside from the requirements na nakikita natin ngayon, yung tatlong ito ni-require natin sa 2011 SALN form. And again, this generated a lot of oppositions from different sectors, including our legislators, no? So sabi masyado naman daw nakikialam, no, sa buhay ng mga government people. And besides, mahirap pilapan, this will not encourage filing of SALN kasi nga masyadong cumbersome. Okay? So anong nangyari? That form was again deferred. We came up with a new version, the 2013 revised SALN form, where we removed the requirements under RA 3019. Okay? Pero, at ginawa naming basis na yung RA 6713 na lang, wala na yung 3019. Okay? Pero nagkaroon pa rin po ng problema sa 2013 revised SALN form kasi merong another general, no, na nag-declare ng property niya dyan. Pero yung location ng property na yon, inilagay niya lang na very generic, nilagay province of Nueva Ecija. When our friends from the media tried to locate the property, kasi naging medyo controversial siya, hindi nila makita kasi malawak pala po yung Nueva Ecija. So that's why some of them suggested na pwede bang i-require sa SALN na dapat exact location yung ilagay. And that's the reason why the Commission again came up with a new form, the 2015 revised SALN form, na ang pagbabago lang na inintroduce ay yung specific location of real property. Okay? So yan na po yung dating form na ginagamit natin, yung immediate, yung 2015. Well, until yung mga members po ng Interagency TWG, well, again, let me inform everyone na yung pong ating SALN rules at saka SALN form is a product of collaboration, no, among different agencies which formed themselves as Interagency TWG on SALN. At in one meeting way back, no, nagkasundo po sila na mag-introduce ng mga pagbabago sa SALN because there were clamor, no, coming from our fellow public servants na i-revisit yung some of the provisions of the guidelines as well as some of the portions of the form. And accordingly, in response to those requests, nireview po yung guidelines, nireview yung form, at ang resulta nga po ay itong 2025 SALN guidelines and SALN form. Okay? Kaya again, ang gagamitin na po natin sa pag-file ng ating SALN for those who are filing, no, ngayong taon na to ay yung 2025 SALN form. At ito po yung itsura ng ating SALN form. Okay? So sa isang tingin, no, ito po yung magiging itsura niya. Now, hindi ho cast in stone, no, yung appearance nito. Okay? Kung mapapansin niyo po doon sa unahan, wala na hong address, di ba? Tapos may dalawang linya pa. Napagkasunduan po kasi doon sa Interagency TWG, no, na alisin po yung address, no, as a requirement for declaration. Kasi unang-una, it's not required under the law. At pangalawa, nagiging subject po siya ng request for reduction because of data privacy concern. Okay? So, inalis po yung address, but you can see merong lines po na naiwan doon. Kasi inalis yun, pero hindi ibig sabihin ay pinagbabawalan kayong ilagay. Kung gusto nyo ilagay, dilagyan nyo. Okay, ngayon kung hindi naman kayo inclined na ilagay yung address nyo, pwede nyo na hong hindi lagyan. No? And for those who are downloading this, pwede nyo na hong alisin yung linya na yan, no? If you are not indicating your address. Kung hindi nyo naman naalisin yung linya na yan, dahil linya yan, di ba? Sa rule natin, dapat no lines will be left unfilled, lalagyan nyo po ng not applicable yan. Okay? So, ganun po kaluwag. So, it's not cast in stone. Basta ang mahalaga po kasi sa SALN, yung declaration na tama, no, ng ating assets, liabilities, and net worth. Yung form, we adopt a certain degree of liberality. Okay? Anyway, pag-uusapan po natin yan, bawat isang portion ng form na yan as we go along. Okay, so the 2025 SALN form contains the following, no, the basic information, the children, the assets, real property, and personal property, the liabilities, business interests, and financial connections, relatives in government, waiver and certification, the signature portion, the oath of office, as well as the use of additional sheets. Okay? So lahat po ito makikita natin sa ating SALN form. Okay, meron pong additional sheets. Ang additional sheets po ay pinoprovide if the original sheet does not have enough space to accommodate all your declarations, then you can use the additional sheet. The other use of additional sheet is for the declaration of the properties that belong to your children or to your spouse. Okay? Madali naman po yung gamitin. Susundan nyo lang. Okay, so what are the changes in the SALN form? The declarations on amount and sources of income, amount of personal and family expenses, and amount of income taxes paid were removed. Yung pong nasa 2011 na requirement, again, inalis na po natin yon. The declaration of the nature of real properties was also removed. Yung pong nature, yung conjugal, absolute community, etc., inalis na po natin yung gano'n, no? Kasi dati merong mga nagrereklamo na they don't easily understand that, especially those who have no background in law. Okay, so inalis na po natin yun for easy declaration. Personal properties no longer have to be distinguished as tangible and intangible. Again, medyo technical po yan, kaya inalis na po natin yan para hindi maging mahirap sa ating mga filers. Additional space for declarants with more than one wife was provided. Now you can see that in the new form. And footnotes provided as reference of declarants. No? As reference, when you are filling out the 2025 form, you can see footnotes that will guide you further in the filling out of your SALN. Let's go to the basic information. So ito po yung makikita sa basic information ng SALN. Kung mapapansin niyo po sa taas, nakalagay diyan as required by RA 6713, this only emphasizes that the only law that we are using as basis for the form is RA 6713. This is despite the existence of other laws, But for purposes of the form, it is only RA 6713. Yung first box diyan, assumption of office as of, referring to the entry SALN. Yung second, yung annual filing, kaya as of December 31. At yung third, exit as of. So ano po ang ini-imply niyan? Ang ini-imply po niyan ay meron pong different cut-off dates. Yung properties na i-declare natin sa SALN, depende sa SALN na ipa-file. So if you are a new entrant to the government service, o kaya naman, dati ka nang nasa government pero magre-re-employ ka, you have to submit an entry SALN. And the cut-off for that will be all your properties or your net worth as of the time that you assume office. Okay, I hope that's not confusing. So kung halimbawa, nag-assume ka ngayon, January, yung SALN mo, ang cut-off nun ay yung date na nag-assume ka. Kasi that will reflect how much is your net worth when you assume your position in government service. Okay? Ngayon, kung dati ka nang nasa gobyerno, ang cut-off ng iyong declaration ay December 31 of the previous year. Okay? Kasi for purposes of annual filing, ang idinideclare po natin ay yung kabuuang net worth natin noong nakaraang taon. That's why it's as of December 31 of the previous year. Okay? Ngayon, yung exit SALN naman po, ang cut-off niyan ay yung accumulated property mo as of the time that you are leaving the government. So magkakaiba po yung cut-off date. And you can see, because of the different cut-off dates, namomonitor po yung accumulation of wealth from the time you enter, at the time that you are working in government, up to the time that you are leaving the government. Okay? So different cut-off po yan, yung periods natin. Please remember that. Now, sa declarant, yung of course, your family name, your first name, middle initial, and position, agency, office address, mga self-explanatory naman po yan. May dalawang lines po dyan that was originally intended for address, pero hindi na nga po mandatory yung address. Kung you are not inclined to indicate your address, pwede nyo na pong alisin yan. Okay, then the spouse, and then the position, agency, office address. Mamaya meron no tayong provision pertaining to the spouse. Spouses who are both public officials or employees may file their SALN jointly or separately, and the declarant shall check the appropriate box. Ayan po, nakalagay, joint filing, separate filing, and not applicable. If with multiple marriages, indicate the name of the spouses. Otherwise, check the not applicable box. Ibig sabihin, kung wala ka namang multiple marriages, edi ilagay mo not applicable. Pero kahit chinek mo na yung not applicable, lagyan mo pa rin ng NA yung mga blanks dyan. Kasi po meron tayong rule na lahat ng blanks dapat hindi pwedeng maiwan na unfilled. Okay? Now, pagdating sa children, unmarried children below 18 years of age living in declarant's household, ang i-declare lang po natin ay unmarried children below 18 years of age. So, kung ang anak mo ay 18 years old na pataas, hindi nyo na kailangang i-declare dyan. Okay? So, unmarried children, tsaka unmarried children. below 18 years of age. Well, sa panahon natin ngayon, under the law, hindi naman pwedeng magpakasal kapag below 18, hindi ba? But anyway, yan po kasi yung eksaktong wording ng batas. Kaya ganyan po yung pagkakalagay niyan. Unmarried children below 18 years of age, yun lang po yung ilalagay nyo sa inyong basic information sa SALN. Okay? Now, still when to file na nabanggit ko na kanina, no? So, the entry SALN, the annual SALN, and the exit SALN. No? Or otherwise, assumption, annual, and separation. Regardless of how you call it, ganun pa rin naman yung ibig sabihin nun. Okay? Ngayon, yung second bullet, this is very important. Kasi may mga nagtatanong, halimbawa nakapag-file ako ng entry SALN kasi because I assumed office, for example, in January, do I still need to file an annual SALN by April 30? Okay? So the answer to that is no more. There is no need, no, to submit an annual SALN kung first time entrant ka sa government service. Okay? So public officials and employees who assume their office in a given year shall no longer be required to comply with the annual filing of the SALN in the year of assumption of office. Why? I think the reason is obvious, no? Ang cut-off ng assumption SALN o entry SALN ay yung time na nag-assume ka. So kung nag-assume ka ng January, for example, January ngayon, no, ang ilalagay mo na cut-off doon ng property mo ay January. Kung ngayong araw ka nag-assume, today is January 23, ang cut-off ng declaration mo ay January 23. So lahat ng iyong net worth, okay, ng January 23, i-declare mo sa iyong entry SALN. Yung annual SALN, ang cut-off noon, December 31 eh. Ibig sabihin, covered na yun. So hindi mo na kailangang mag-file, no, ng annual SALN, no, kapag first time entrant ka sa government service. Okay? So yan lang po yung ibig sabihin ng ating second bullet. Kapag bagong assume ka, isang SALN lang ang ifa-file mo. Now, it's a different story kung paalis ka na. Okay? Kasi kung paalis ka na, unless umalis ka mas maaga sa April 30, but if your separation is after April 30, you still need to file an exit SALN. Why? Because there is always a possibility that your net worth will change, no? Within any given period. Maski isang araw lang yung pagitan, pwedeng magbago yung net worth mo eh, di ba? Okay, lalo na kung medyo matagal, isang buwan, 2 buwan, because of many possible developments, no? Kaya kung exit SALN yan, okay, aside from the annual SALN, at nag-exit ka after that, magpapile ka pa rin ng panibagong SALN. Pero kung ang exit mo ay before April 30, again, hindi na. Kasi hindi ka naman umabot doon sa deadline. Okay? So I hope that's not confusing. Anyway, if you have questions about that, you can ask the question later, no? At kung gusto niyo lang itanong ngayon yan, you can already ask the question because we have lawyers from the Office for Legal Affairs who will be ready to answer all your questions, no? Even in the middle of our discussion. Now, let's talk about re-entry to government service. The re-entry of any public official or employee to government service, such as the re-election of officials and re-employment, shall be considered as another assumption of office. So the question here is, do I need to file a new SALN if I will return to the government or if I will go back to the government after, no, a gap in the service? Meaning, momentarily, you sever your ties with the government and then you decided to go back to the government service. So in your re-entry, do you need to file a SALN? The answer is yes. That is a new assumption. Okay? Yeah, and that is covered by this provision. So it will be considered as another assumption of office. Therefore, you need to file your entry SALN again. Okay? Take note that re-employment presupposes a gap in the service. So it only happens when there is a gap in the service. Thus, all personnel movements which do not result in a gap in the service are excluded from this provision. So even if you have new assumption but there was no severance of ties from the government, there is no need to file another SALN. So for example, if you are transferred to another agency, that is a new assumption. You are assuming a new office in another agency. Are you required to file a new SALN because you are transferring to another agency? No more. You can use the SALN that you filed in your previous agency for purposes of compliance. Okay, why? Because you never left the service. There is no gap in the service. Okay? With more reason that applies to those who did not leave the service. For example, if you are promoted, okay, or demoted, you are issued new appointments and you will be required to make new assumptions in your offices. But since there is no gap in the service, there is no need to execute another SALN. Okay? Again, the execution of another SALN for those who are going back to the government only happens if there is a gap in the service. if there is re-entry or re-employment. Other than that, if there is no gap, there is no need to execute another SALN. Okay? So I hope that's also clear. Okay, let us talk about joint and separate filing of assets. No, spouses shall declare all their assets, including parapernal and capital properties, business interests, and financial connections. In case of joint filing po yan. No? So when you decide to jointly file your SALN, you are both in government. All your properties will have to be included in one SALN, whether parapernal or capital. Of course, you know the meaning of parapernal. These are the exclusive properties of the wife. No, capital properties are the exclusive properties of the husband. Okay, so all of them will have to be included in your filing, as well as in the computation of your net worth. Now, in case of separate filing, the declaration of the exclusive property of the spouse is not required. This is an offshoot of a Supreme Court decision, no? The case of Babano versus the Executive Secretary, where the Supreme Court declared that there is no mandatory obligation on the part of the filer to declare in his own SALN the exclusive property of his or her spouse, because he has nothing to do with that. Okay? So, Supreme Court po yun. So, we have to follow that. At ang sinasabi po doon, kung exclusive property, hindi mandatory yung declaration. But of course, if you want to be fully transparent about the declaration of your assets, what's wrong about declaring the properties of your spouse, even if those properties are exclusive to him or to her, no? Using the additional sheets. But if you don't feel like declaring them, it's good, no? It's also legal because it has a backing by way of a Supreme Court decision. Now, for purposes of computation of net worth, for separate filing, you don't include in the computation of your net worth the parapernal or capital properties, no? Meaning the exclusive properties of your spouse, for the simple reason that those properties do not belong to you. Separate filing kayo, di ba? In the computation of your own assets, you only compute your own assets. You don't include in the computation the separate properties of your spouse. But when it comes to joint filing, you have to compute everything, including parapernal or capital properties. Okay? And for your convenience, additional sheet forms are given, no? In case the original form cannot accommodate all the properties that you will declare. Okay, let's continue. Spouses who are public officials or employees but separated in fact or legally separated are still considered to have marriage bonds. They shall have the option to file their SALN jointly or separately. Ito naman po ay paglilinaw lang because there were questions in the past, no, that were asked about this. Kung magkahiwalay daw sila pero wala namang annulment, so separated in fact, can they still file their SALN jointly? Yes, they can exercise the option. Why? Because in the eyes of the law, they are still married, di ba? So therefore, they still have the right to exercise that option. Okay? Pero of course, kung ayaw nila, option nga yun, di separate SALN. In case the declarant is single, hindi mag-a-apply yung option, no? Married but whose spouse is not in government service, widowed, divorced under the Code of Muslim Personal Laws of the Philippines, and those whose marriages were legally annulled or declared annulity under the Family Code of the Philippines, of course, this is not applicable anymore. And to add to that, no, kung if you have more than one wife and more than one of them is in government, this option is also not available because that will require automatically a separate filing of SALN. Yeah, so that's in section 11. So in case the declarant has more than one wife, as allowed under existing laws, he shall file his SALN separately if more than one wife is a public official or employee. In case only one wife is a public official or employee, the declarant shall have the option to jointly or separately file the SALN. In addition to the declarations required under these rules, the declarant shall also declare the names of his wives. So, maliwanag po, if more than one wife is in government, you cannot exercise the option. Automatically, you have to file a separate SALN. But even if you have more than one wife, but only one wife is in government, then the option is available to you. Okay? Now, if the declarant is the wife of a public official or employee who has more than one wife, she shall separately file the SALN kung, okay, yung sa more than one wife, ay more than one of them is also in government. Okay, kung ikaw naman yung asawa, no? At yung asawa mo may ibang asawa pa who is also working in government, hindi ka pwedeng makipag-join. Okay? So automatic, that's a separate filing of SALN. Okay, name of declarant spouse. The declarant shall provide the name of his spouse. Okay, however, the declarant is not required to disclose the spouse or spouse's job title, office, and office address, except when the spouse is also a public official or employee. So ito po ay isa ring pagbabago dati-dati, maski private yung asawa mo, mandatory na i-disclose mo doon yung kanyang office address, tsaka yung position niya doon sa private company. In these new guidelines, kung ang asawa mo is not in government, hindi na mandatory na i-disclose yung kanyang job title, office, and office address. Kung ayaw mong i-disclose, hindi ka pipilitin. Okay? But if your spouse is also in government, then you will have to make that declaration. The children must provide the information, the declarant must provide the information required for the declarant's unmarried children below 18 years of age and living in his or her household, whether legitimate or illegitimate. No? So this answers that nagging question before. Will it apply even if the child is illegitimate? The answer is yes. So the law does not qualify. So we cannot qualify. Okay? So whether legitimate or illegitimate, if your child is under 18 years of age, you have to name that child, no, in your SALN. The children referred to above shall be considered living in the declarant's household, regardless of whether the child is physically present in the household or not, as long as the said child is dependent on the declarant for support. So ibig sabihin, even if the child is not physically living in your household, but that child is wholly dependent on you for support, you will have to name that child, okay, in your SALN. Okay. Now look at this provision. No, this is also new. The change of civil status of the declarant after the following dates of submission of the SALN shall not affect the declaration of the properties. Ang ibig sabihin, no, bigla ka nag-asawa after you file your SALN. So yung pag-aasawa mo will no longer affect the declaration that you made prior to your marriage. O kaya naman, kung bigla kang nawala ng asawa, no, after the declaration, it will not affect anymore the declaration that you previously made. Okay, yan lang po ibig sabihin yan. So, ano yung hindi maapektuhan? The date of assumption for the declarant entering government service. Halimbawa, pumasok ka sa gobyerno ng January, single ka, nung pala pagdating ng February, mag-aasawa ka. So, di ba, mag-iiba yung properties mo in the sense na because of the absolute community property, pati yung properties ng asawa mo, magiging properties mo na yun di ba? Okay? Now, was it wrong na hindi mo na-declare yun in the SALN that you previously declared prior to your marriage? No. Because again, this provision states that it will not affect the declaration of your properties, okay, prior to the change of your civil status. December 31 of the preceding year for the annual filing by the declarant and the date of separation for the declarant leaving government service. So sa tatlo pong yan, yung tatlong kinds ng SALN, kung nagkaroon ng pagbabago ng civil status after you submit your SALN, it will not affect the declaration of your properties. Okay. Sige, so I hope we have made clear, no, all those preliminaries, no, about the declaration. Take note, preliminaries lang po yun, no. We answered some of the questions that were usually asked, no, on SALN, no, based on the previous rule and the previous form. And of course, we're hoping we have addressed them. Now let's go to assets declaration, no. And when we talk about assets, there are only two kinds naman, real property and personal property. Okay? For purposes of assets declaration, ang real property po, description, classification, location, and acquisition details, no, ay naliwanag po sa ating rules. Ang personal property, referring to jewelry, appliances, vehicles, investments, cash, stocks, bonds, memorial, printed plants, inherited and co-owned properties must be declared. Lahat po ito, no, nakapaloob doon sa ating rules on assets declaration for both real property and personal property. First, let us take up real properties. Ano ba yung mga real properties? Of course, for lawyers, no, and for those with legal background, they know this very well. Real properties are properties which are immovable by nature. Ito po yung mga ari-arian na hindi natitinag. Okay? They remain in one place. Kaya ang lupa, real property yan because immovable. Kahit sabihin natin na minsan gumagalaw yan pag may lindol. No, hindi ho ganun kaliteral yan. Properties which are immovable by nature because they stay in one place. Yun po yung mga real properties. Ngayon, kapag yung real properties na yan, nilagyan mo ng another property which has the intention of making it permanent, magiging real property din yun. Kaya yung mga bahay na itinayo sa lupa, real property din yun. Okay? So improvements attached or introduced to the immovable are also real properties. All works that are constructed or introduced to the land or repairs or improvements made to the land or building after its initial acquisition are real properties. Nagpagawa ka ng garahe sa iyong bahay, real property. Okay? At ang real properties po may be declared separately or jointly together with the land to which it is attached. Okay? Sige, more on real properties. What should be declared as real property? Okay. Title properties. These are properties that are registered under your name. So if you're the declarant and you have a title to the property, the presumption is that you own the property. So therefore, you have to declare that as a property. So, kung meron kang TCT doon sa property na yan, di sa'yo yan, no? Yun hong ating mga columbary, memorial lots. Mga real properties din po yan, immovable. Kung meron yan, nasa pangalan mo yan, properties mo yan because those are title properties. Okay? Now, acquired properties. Sometimes, even if you do not have the title yet, no, but the property has already been conveyed to you, or the ownership of the property was already conveyed to you through the execution of a proper instrument, such as a deed of sale. Ang tawag po doon ay acquired properties. No? For as long as there is already an instrument that will show the conveyance of the property to you, even if you do not have a title yet, that property already belongs to you and you have to declare that in your SALN. Acquired properties po yun. So those covered by an executed deed of sale, deed of donation, or subject of an extrajudicial settlement. Kasi in reality, hindi agad naaayos yan. So halimbawa, nagkaroon kayo ng deed of sale. It will take time before the property is titled in your name. Hindi ba? Kasi marami pang inaayos. Pero habang wala pang title, hindi mo pa ba pwedeng sabihin na sa'yo yan? Sa'yo na yan because of the instrument that was executed to transfer the property to you or the ownership of the property to you. It has been conveyed. Okay, ganun din po yung deed of donation, dinonate sa'yo. It takes effect upon the effectivity of that deed, even if you do not have a title yet. Okay? Now, third bullet, inheritance. Under the law, naka-specify po doon when does your right to inherit begin. So kung halimbawa namatay yung parents, automatically, no, you will inherit the properties belonging to your parents. And so even if the property is not yet titled to you, but your inheritance already starts, then that property is already given to you by operation of law. So therefore, you already have to declare that in your SALN. Okay? So hindi mo pwedeng sabihin, wala pa naman sa akin yung titulo, kahit na inheritance yan eh. Wala na yung mga magulang mo. Therefore, sa'yo na yan. So you have to declare that. Buhay pa yung mga magulang mo. Sobra ka naman, no? Masyado kang assuming. Kung buhay pa yung mga magulang mo, hindi mo pa ma-inherit yun. Okay? Ang right mo doon is the right to expect, the right of expectancy. But right of expectancy is not equivalent to ownership. Aasa ka lang muna. So hindi po yun yung ibig sabihin dyan. Inheritance would mean that your right to inherit the property, no, already starts dahil by operation of law. Halimbawa nga nawala na yung mga magulang mo. Okay? So I hope these provisions are clear. Now, what about conveyed property? Ito na nga po yun. No? The real property of the declarant, the spouse or unmarried children below 18 years of age, living in the declarant's household, already conveyed to another person through a deed of absolute sale or perfected donation, even if not yet registered under that person's name, shall not be declared anymore in the SALN. Okay? So, continuation lang po ito ng pagpapaliwanag kanina. Ha? Diba, sabi natin kanina, even if the property is not yet titled in your name, but has been conveyed to you through the proper instruments such as deed of sale or deed of donation, sa'yo na yon, maski wala ka pang title. Conversely, okay, kung yung property previously belongs to you pero naibenta mo na, no, through a deed of sale or naipamigay mo through a perfected donation, pero hindi pa nakarehistro dun sa taong bumili o pinagbigyan mo, hindi na sa'yo yun. You have already conveyed that property through the execution of those instruments. Therefore, you should not include that anymore in your declaration in the SALN. Okay? Because that property ceases to be yours when you executed those documents. Okay? So I hope that's clear. Huh? Anyway, if there are questions about this, we'll be answering that later. So ito po yung portion pertaining to the real properties. Kung makikita nyo, it starts with description, lot, house and lot, condominium and improvements, kind, residential, commercial, industrial, mix. Yung exact location po dito, hindi kailangan kumpletong address. No? Nakalagay sa guidelines. It is sufficient na ilagay nyo yung location where the property can be easily located. So hindi po kailangan exactong address. But if you want to put the exact address of the property, that is very well acceptable. Assess value, current fair market value, the acquisition in the year and mode, as well as the acquisition cost. Okay? So ito yung makikita yung portion nung SALN, no, pertaining to real property. Noong 2015, the required declaration of location of real property was clarified. In the new rules, it was further clarified, no, that it may be declared in a manner by which the said property may be easily located, such as but not limited to barangay for agricultural lands. Well, alam niyo po, despite the advancement of technology in our country, meron pa rin hong mga lugar, no, dito sa ating bayan na yung mga addresses walang number, no? Barangay lang yung address nila. But still they can be located, no? Yun. Okay? So in recognition of that reality, nilagay ho natin ito as part of the rules. For as long as it may be easily located, such as but not limited to barangay for agricultural lands and street or name of subdivision for residential properties. Okay? Sige, so dun sa mga members po ng RCC, kahit hindi po complete yung address na nilagay, for as long as the declaration may lead to the easy location of the property, tatanggapin po natin yon as a valid declaration. Okay, let's talk about the assessed value and fair market value. No, we still maintain the provision that for purposes of declaring the assessed value and fair market value of the property, we have to use the amount that is indicated in the tax declaration, no? Based on the amount as indicated in the latest available tax declaration of the property. Maliwanag naman po yung basis nito, no? Kasi ito na po yung official valuation ng ating property. No? Hindi nyo na kailangang manghula. Kaya para meron kayong pinagbabasihan sa i-declare yung assessed value and fair market value, dapat nagbabayad kayo ng real property tax at meron kayong tax declaration of real property. Kokopyahin nyo na lang yan. Kokopyahin nyo na lang. Ngayon, meron tayong mga bagong provisions dito. Kasi in the past, no, meron hong mga nagsasabi na hindi available yung kanilang tax declaration. For some reasons, nagbabayad naman sila ng taxes but they do not have tax declarations. No? And when we made some verification, it appears that there are really situations like that. So we included this provision. Paano kung walang tax declaration? Paano mo i-declare ngayon yung fair market value at saka assessed value? In case the tax declaration is not readily available to the declarant, the spouse, and the children, the assessed and fair market value may be based on other government sources or means, such as but not limited to information obtained from the assessor's office of the local government having jurisdiction over the real property concerned. So in other words, kung walang tax declaration, then magpupunta tayo sa ibang paraan kung saan makakakuha tayo ng official declaration from the government as to the assessed value and fair market value of the property. Okay? Again, mag-a-apply lang po yan kung walang tax declaration. Ngayon, if your property inherently doesn't have any tax declaration, talagang hindi siya ini-issue ng tax declaration, ang ilalagay nyo sa inyong column pertaining to assessed value and fair market value ay NA or not applicable. Okay? So yan po yung second paragraph ng Section 21. In case there is no tax declaration for the property, such as memorial lots, columbarium units, the declarant shall indicate not applicable or NA for the assessed and fair market value of the property. Okay? So again, ang basic source po natin ng assessed value tsaka fair market value ay tax declaration. Pag walang tax declaration, we should go to other sources or other means, no, where we can obtain from the government the accurate assessed value and fair market value of the property. But if inherently the real property doesn't have any tax declaration, then that column pertaining to assessed value and fair market value, ang ilalagay po natin ay not applicable or NA. So in case the latest available tax deck, let me call it that tax deck para mas maiksi, no, does not indicate the market value, the declarant shall base the market value on other government sources, such as but not limited to market value as inquired with the assessor's office or the zonal value issued by the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Bakit po may ganito? Meron din ho nagparating sa amin ng situation na yung kanilang tax declaration ay walang nakalagay na fair market value of the property. So in situations like that, no, assuming it really happens, kailangan we source it from other available information coming from the appropriate government office, the assessor's office or the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Okay, let's go to acquisition year and the mode of acquisition, no? Yan. Di ba nakikita din po natin sa form yan, no? So ano yung mga rule dito? Sa acquisition cost, ano yung ilalagay natin sa acquisition cost? It refers to the amount of money that you pay to acquire or own something. And that is constant. Hindi mo nagbabago yun. Regardless of the appreciation or depreciation of the property, Ang ilalagay po nating acquisition cost ay kung magkano natin nakuha yon, no, when we first acquired it, no. So kung halimbawa a parcel of land, no, na nakuha mo 10 years ago, no, sa halagang 1,000 pesos per square meter. Okay? Ang kabuuan ngayon nagbayad ka ng 300,000. Pero after 10 years, masyado nang lumago yung lugar, no? Nag-appraise na yung halaga ng real property in that place. Yung dating 1,000 per square meter ay 20,000 per square meter na ngayon. Now, if you are declaring in your SALN the acquisition cost of that property, ano yung i-declare mo? Yung presyo ngayon ng lupa o yung pagkakabili mo 10 years ago? The answer is you will still declare the amount of money that you paid to acquire that property. And that was the amount of money 10 years ago. Bakit? Yun lang naman talaga yung acquisition cost, no? Binili mo siya noon, wala namang appreciation. Okay? So kung magkano mo siya nabili, yun din yung acquisition cost. At hindi po nagbabago yun. Okay. Ngayon, sabi ng iba, bago na po sa akin yan, ang dami kong binayaran. Nagbayad ako ng taxes, nagbayad ako ng documentary stamp tax, nagpanotaryo ko, etc. Well, those are not part of the acquisition cost, no? Those are costs for other procedural requirements. But the acquisition cost is the cost that is contained in the document that evidence your acquisition of the property. So kung deed of sale yan, kung ano yung nakalagay na cost sa deed of sale, yun yung iyong acquisition cost at hindi dapat magbabago yun. It is constant regardless of the time that has lapsed. Okay? Okay, so it may refer also to the amount of expenses incurred for improvements introduced on the real property, including cost of labor and materials. Yung iba ko kasi nagtatanong, hindi ko naman nabili yung bahay, ako nagpatayo. Di ba? So ano yung ilalagay ko na acquisition cost? Eh di kung magkano yung nagastos mo sa pagpapatayo ng bahay. At ano po yun? Kung magkano yun, again, constant yun, it will not change. But if the property is received gratuitously, meaning wala kang binayad, it was donated to you, o kaya it was an inheritance, namana mo yan, o napanalunan mo, wala kang binayad para ma-acquire mo yung property, the acquisition cost is zero. Kahit malaking property pa yan, kung wala kang ginastos to acquire that property, your acquisition cost is zero. Okay? So I hope that's clear. Okay, now how do you declare properties which are co-owned? Halimbawa, nag-inherit ka ng property, marami kayong magkakapatid, co-owners kayo, di ba? O kaya naman, meron ka talagang property na pag-aari mo pero dalawa kayong may-ari niyan. Will you declare that property? Yes, but you only disclose that portion that belongs to you. Okay? The proportionate amount of share in the property. So kung 8 kayo sa lupa, 1/8 of the property, dapat ilalagay mo yun sa SALN, belongs to you. Kasi 8 pala kayong maghahati. Okay. Now, how about properties which are subject of a contract to sell? So ito maganda ring i-clarify, ha. When the instrument executed is a mere contract to sell, there is no conveyance of property. When we say contract to sell, it merely shows that the owner of the property is ready to sell the property to the buyer when all the conditions are complied with. So what does it mean? It means that if the instrument executed is a mere contract to sell, there is no conveyance of ownership of the property. So therefore, kung ang hawak mong papeles ay contract to sell, the property does not belong to you yet. So you should not include that in your SALN. Instead, what you will write in your SALN is the amount of money that you already paid with respect to that particular property, and you have to indicate that in the column for personal property. Bakit? Because you have no ownership over the property yet. So tingnan niyo po yung hawak niyong dokumento. Yung iba may mga bahay na dyan, pero nag-obtain sila ng loan agreement doon mismo sa developer. And normally ang developer, ang ini-issue nila contract to sell. Okay? Para kapag hindi ka nakabayad, kukunin agad nila ika-cancel nila agad yung transaction ninyo. Okay? So if it is a mere contract to sell, you don't own the property. And because you're not the owner, you need not declare that, or you should not declare that in your SALN. But your interest over that property would pertain to the amount of money that you already paid. Kaya yung amount of money na yun yung i-declare mo sa iyong SALN in the column for personal property. Ngayon, ano naman itong mortgage property? Pagdating sa mortgage property, ibig sabihin na acquire mo na yung property. Kaya lang may utang ka, no? Therefore, yung title mismo sa property ay nakasanla doon sa pinagkautangan mo. So this happens kung halimbawa bibili ka ng real property pero wala kang enough na cash. Mangungutang ka ngayon sa mga financial institutions, sa bangko, sa Pag-ibig, sa GSIS, no? Kung merong gano'n, no? Housing loan. Ang gagawin nila, babayaran nila yung property ng buo doon sa seller in your name. So dahil binayaran na yun in your name, nagkaroon ng conveyance ng ownership in your favor. Kasi binayaran na sa pangalan mo eh. Pero dahil may utang ka, yung property na yun nakasanla doon sa pinagkautangan mo. So therefore, ang question, sa'yo ba yung property? I-declare mo ba yun sa iyong SALN? The answer is yes, because that property belongs to you. Binayaran na nga yun in your name eh. So it's already your property. You have to declare that in your SALN. Okay? And the actual purchase price is the acquisition cost. Kung magkano yung nakalagay sa deed of sale, yun ang ilalagay mo na acquisition cost. Pero dahil may utang ka, di ba? Kaya naka-mortgage yan, may utang ka eh. Yung amount ng utang mo should appear in the liability column of your SALN. Okay? And that must change every year. Kung nagbabayad ka, lumiliit yun eh. Okay? Every year magbabago, di ba? Pero kung hindi ka nagbabayad, magbabago din yun, lalaki rin yun. Because of the interest that the financial institution usually imposes kapag ka hindi nakakabayad ng utang, yung nangutang sa kanila. Okay? So I hope these are clear, ha? In the past, napapaliwanag na rin naman natin ito. But for those who are first-time filers of SALN, please don't get confused with this, ha? Mahalaga pong malaman natin ito so that we will know what to declare and not to declare in our SALN. So ito po yung kaibahan ng contract to sell at saka deed of sale. I think napaliwanag na po natin ang gusto yan. So therefore, okay na, hindi na natin po pag i-discuss. Okay. Now, we will now go to personal properties. And palagay ko kailangan po natin magpahinga muna, no? Before we resume our session. Okay? So wag po kayong bibitaw. I will be back. Thank you very much for your kind attention.